I can help my body make free medicine that's been proven to kill and prevent and reverse cancer. It's been proven, right? Scientific study after scientific study, if you really know where to look for these things, shows that when we exercise, our body makes these medicines. Now, someone will say, my best friend exercised every day and died of cancer, so there's a flaw in your methodology, Dr. Harmon. And I would say that's just one component. It's just one.
We are excited to announce our upcoming event in April. On the 25th of April, we are having a women's night out. That's right. Tell them, Caroline.
Yes, it's going to be so good. It's at the Landing, 6 to 8:30 p.m. We are going to have Dr. Edie Wadsworth speaking, women's health, hormones. She's going to cover all of that.
And I might even tell a couple stories too. You never know if Caroline lets me. But we want to personally invite you. Listen, this is going to be a great event for you to bring friends,
yes,
family members. Last time we had this event, we just had an unbelievable response. Gave out, I want to say, thousands of dollars worth of prizes. We'll probably have around 20 to 25 booths there. You'll be able to just walk around and fellowship together. Just get out and get away from the guys.
That's it. Come join us on April 25th, 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Landing in Morristown.
See y'all there.
What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Heskett and Caroline with Coffee with the Chiro. Caroline?
Welcome, everybody, and welcome Dr. Terry Harmon to the show. I am so excited. With his Forrest Gump wave, he's with us.
Yes, and Dr. Terry's looking dapper today. He's got a little jacket on. Y'all, for those of you who can't see him, Dr. Terry is a close personal friend of mine, as well as fellow duck hunter. He is, we've spent several days in the duck blind together, and I want everybody to know out there that not only did he duck hunt, but he also got his workout inside the duck blind there, which is a little bit disturbing, as well as commitment on his part. But I am very honored to have Dr. Terry today on our podcast. We're going to dive deep into some things today that can change and even save your life. So today is going to be such a powerful podcast. And Dr. Terry, we want to welcome you in to Coffee with the Chiro. You are such a blessing, and it is so exciting to have you. Just a little history on Dr. Terry and myself. We've been personal friends for about 20 years. Dr. Terry has a practice in Kentucky. He is a chiropractor first at heart and loves to adjust people and I've personally talked to people who have been inside his office and seen miracles and just seen the different things that happen on a day-to-day basis in his life. And I know he is excited to share with us today. So welcome, Dr. Terry, to Coffee with the Chiro.
Well, it's an honor. Thank you for having me on, and
Dr.
excited
Terry, for those
to chat,
who
to share.
are new to listening to the podcast and also to hearing your name, do you want to give just a little bit of background about yourself first and maybe your practice, and then also maybe how about cancer kind of found its way into your office?
Yeah, so I've been practicing for 26 years. As Michael said, my initial entry into this was with chiropractic. We still do all kinds of amazing chiropractic in my practice here locally. But 24 years ago, really God took me on a journey of really discovering functional medicine, really before it had a name, which is essentially just testing people for that which they're lacking and that which they have too much of. And it was really through a series of clients that I had that had different chronic diseases that just tugged at my heart, like literally just would break my heart. And I would see that the care that they were getting, I could tell was lacking. Like there had to be more for these people. And then it just began a journey of seminars and trainings and certifications that, 24 years later today, like I get to come into my practice and work with people all over the world. We have clients, and I've lost count on the number of countries that we work with virtually, and then in some cases they travel into our practice, and it really has been essentially just like a tug at my heart scenario where I'm like, God, there's got to be more to help this person than we'll just say just conventional drugs. And essentially it would typically turn into a prompting, we'll use the term by the Holy Spirit, a prompting to study and to investigate. And lo and behold, over time, we've cultivated a system that is for people who feel great, right? If you're watching this and you're like, I feel great, I'm awesome, great. We'll talk about maybe let's just validate. Let's validate that. And then also a system whereby, if somebody has, something as horrible as advanced cancer, that we usually can assist them in their journey towards healing. And again, disclaimer, in this amazing country that we live in, we can't say, and we don't say that we treat cancer. So we can't say it and we don't. What we do is we help people get clarity and tools to heal.
Yeah, that's awesome, Dr. Terry. To give us a little bit, where'd you go to chiropractic school? Tell us a little bit about that and how, and how kind of, what was the thing that maybe the light went off where you're like, man, I want to know more about this chiropractic, and then kind of take us through maybe some of the changes that happened through that time to lead you into the cancer arena. Because today's podcast, the focus is going to be, lifestyle things that we can do so just kind of lead us through that, where you kind of started and how it kind of went through that.
Yeah. So number one, going way back when I was a baby, my parents were told I wasn't going to live. Right. So I was one of these children. This is 1972, right? That I was a couple months old, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I was very, very sick and ended up in the hospital. And the doctor said in 1972, we're very sorry. Your baby has failure to thrive syndrome. We absolutely don't know how to resolve this. And we think your baby's going to die. Like this is me, right, at 2 months of age. And my parents had a kooky neighbor, as you will say, that said, you should go see a chiropractor. And initially, my parents certainly didn't understand chiropractic as something that could help a sick baby. My parents took me to the chiropractor, Dr. Walter Ross, in Silvis, Illinois, where I grew up, and I got my first adjustment, and within 24 hours, my life had changed, right? And I only know this from my parents telling me this, but when I was growing up, that's where we went. We went to the chiropractor, right? And, I was just blessed that experience and my chiropractor, led me to make that choice of becoming a chiropractor. I graduated from Palmer College in 1997 and opened a practice in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was like a dream. It was a dream, literally, just the opportunity to help people with my hands. Like literally, I was absolutely just in love with chiropractic. And then I had a client come in, I'll never forget it. He was from India, so he was of Indian descent, and he came in for chiropractic care and fell in love with this guy. And he had cancer that was eating away his face. And it took me a couple of visits to be able to look him in his eye, because his face was being grotesquely eaten away. And he was excited to learn about chiropractic, and I was excited to provide it for him. And he was getting chemotherapy and radiation, and he came into my office with a bag of McDonald's, right? And I didn't know a whole lot about nutrition back then. I wasn't really like I am now, but I was just like, man, I don't think that's the best thing to put into your body when you're trying to heal. And I said, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, why are you eating that, right? And he said, well, that's what they told me to eat. And I said, that's not funny. And he pulled out of his pocket, I can see it right now in my mind, this document from the cancer center there in Louisville. And it said, we recommend during treatment that you eat high calorie foods. And they specifically mentioned certain fast food restaurants and certain things on the menu. This is not, this, I don't, and I said, at that moment, it was like I got hit by the goodness of God and like with a challenge. And I was just like, man, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff. I really don't. Like, I learned what we learned in chiropractic school, which is decent. But I'm like, here's what I do know. I know that if they're handing that out, there's something I can do, which is I can teach people about good nutrition, or at least what I thought I knew about it. So 24 years ago was just an invitation into, I hate it when people suffer. I hate it. I hate it when people are struggling. And if I can do something about it, even if it means I have to work, I have to study, then I'm going to do it. And, you know, it just was one of those cases after another case after another case that now, you know, in my practice today, I have the honor and pleasure of working with so many people that are kicking butt in the realm of building health. Like, it's just like I get giddy just like talking about it and talking with you guys about it as well. So that's my journey of becoming a chiropractor, and that's my entry point into, if you will,
that's
learning and studying and teaching.
A kickstart from literally a patient coming in, and you were just literally smacked in the face right in front of you with, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I might know it's probably not good to start eating McDonald's while you're in treatment for cancer. Like, let's just start there.
Yeah. And to see that on that document that he handed me, right? So that wasn't even like he said, she said type thing. It was like, here you go. You have cancer. Here's that. And that type of stuff, to be clear, still goes on today. Like, it still goes on today, in that sayings like nutrition doesn't matter.
Right.
And look, all of us are human. All of us have our desires
so
and our pleasures.
Let's elaborate on that.
But it does matter. Deeper there. Like, so it absolutely does matter.
That does matter. So anytime you start tiptoeing around the cancer subject, you know, it's kind of it can be very touchy. You know, you get into this cancel culture where, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't say this. But in actuality, you know,
come on,
the premise of what we believe, Dr. Terry, is the same, is that God designed the body, and God designed the body to be healthy. And so, you know, if somebody's sitting out there, they're like, I can't, you know, there's nothing I can do if I just go in and I'm at a stage 2 cancer, or if I go in and I find a spot on my shoulder and it turns out to be melanoma. So let's say there's somebody sitting out there listening to this and they're like, yo, what can I do to statistically to help me prevent somewhere down the road me sitting in front of a doctor and them saying to me, hey, you got to have chemo and radiation. If we're talking nutrition, like, just give me a simple step or simple thing that we can say, hey, this is something I can take action upon my life today and do that's not very difficult.
Yeah, I love it. And, you know, I want to share with everybody, like, I live from a big standpoint of studies and numbers and black and white. Like, it's literally where I have to live from, because even just the word cancer it evokes so much emotion, right? All of us have been impacted by cancer in ways that just tugs at you, like all of us, right? So we'll just leave it at that. So the number one thing is it's understanding statistically, we have the highest rates of cancer in the world here in America, right? My very last client today before jumping on here was in the Netherlands, right? And he was just talking about, you know, traveling around the world and just how bad it is here in America. We have the highest rates of obesity. 93.2% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, right? That's a 2022 Tufts University study. 93.2% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy with one or more lab markers that are compromised. So when I say this, like, I'll say simple, easy things for people watching this. They may not be so easy, right? They may be say, oh, easy for you to say. Easy as it relates to it's doable, number one, and number two, that it will make a difference. So the very first thing I would tell everybody is exercise. Like the very first thing, like I would say exercise even before nutrition. And we're going to talk about nutrition. And the reason I say that is because exercise brings oxygen into the tissues, number one, and gets our muscles to release something called myokines, right? So, Dr. Heskett, it's our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, designed to heal. The God who made us is for us. His plans for us are amazing, right? When we exercise, our muscles will make and release this fancy word called myokines, myokines. And when we do that, there's 650 different myokines, which are 650 different medicines. So when we make our body exercise, and that's what we oftentimes have to do, right? We have to say, get your butt up, get out of bed, go for a walk, do something. When we make ourselves exercise, our muscles make anti-cancer medicines, anti-Alzheimer's medicines, right? And that's a free gift available to us, and yet it's still not easy, right? And I don't want anybody watching this to feel guilty at all. It's just understanding that when I exercise, like in the duck blinded example, and I don't do it to show off, I do it because God said, I've given you a gift, Terry. I have given you a gift. What are you going to do with that gift? Right? Like, what are you going to do with it? And I'm just like, Lord, I'll do my best. Like, I'm going to do my best to learn it and live it and then teach it. Right? That if we understood that every time we exercise, our bodies make 650 different medicines. Holy cow. Like, it just makes it so it's like, I'm just going to try and make that a routine. Like, some days will be more intense than others, right? Some days will be, right? Like I know, Michael, you do CrossFit, right?
Bro, I want to just stop right there and just say that is huge, that learn it, live it, and teach it. So, that's gigantic because I've physically, with my eyes, seen Dr. Terry live that out, even when it's on an off day. And so it's kind of like the Bible says, it's easy to love somebody that and that's your friend, but it's hard to love your enemies. Same thing when it comes to exercise. Like he's non-compromising. He is not compromising regardless of his circumstances or his situation, his calling on his life to exercise at all costs. And I've seen that, and that has been a huge blessing in my life. Not that I actually got down on the floor and did push-ups with you, but in my heart and in my mind, I say, man, that's somebody that's totally dedicated and committed to doing that. So I just want to tell our listeners out there, that's so huge that not only when we have information, so it's Dr. Terry saying if exercise is one of the keys, and we have that information and we learn that, now we have to live it, and then therefore we can teach it. Mm-hmm. So that's gigantic. Thank you for that, Dr. Terry. Caroline?
Well, and I just wanted to say, you're not just saying everybody, you've got to go out and do CrossFit every day, right? I mean, exercise can be what? Just
No.
Right.
It could be for some people a brisk walk. Right. The idea is we're going to intentionally take 20 minutes a day. So I tell people 20 minutes. If you end up doing more, great. If you can only do 10, great. Whereby we're going to take advantage of what God has given us. Right. And so, and for me, it's about that revelation of I can help my body make free medicine that's been proven to kill and prevent and reverse cancer. It's been proven. Right. Scientific study after scientific study, if you really know where to look for these things, shows that when we exercise, our body makes these medicines. Now, someone will say, my best friend exercised every day and died of cancer. So there's a flaw in your methodology, Dr. Harmon. And I would say that's just one component. It's just one. And then, I would share with you guys, there's a couple other things. Nutrition's important, but there's two other things that number two is sleep. Prioritize doing your darndest to sleep, because listen to this. Cancer has been shown to only grow at night. You got that? Everybody got that? Right. I know. When I learned that, I'm like, holy moly. So prioritize sleep. And some people watching this maybe are struggling to sleep.
Right.
If you're struggling to sleep, get some help. An office like ours could help you to be able to become a good sleeper. But there's also, saying, I'm going to get my butt in bed and I'm going to be in bed to the best of my ability 8 hours every night. Right. You might not sleep 8 hours, right? You might read a little bit, talk a little bit, move around a little bit, whatever. But the gist is, let's try and be in bed 8 hours a night. And then one other thing that people are not going to want to hear, but it is critical, and that's that to protect your eyes from blue lights
those are
after
cool.
dark.
If y'all
Right?
can't
Get
see,
some glasses
some
like
people
this.
can't see, they're
Get
listening.
some
So
like
I would
this.
say those are somewhere along the lines of Max Headroom or some type of no, could be Pee Wee Herman.
Love it.
Max Headroom glasses, no pun intended. But tell us about that. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah. So listen to this. There's a 2004 study called Bright Lights, Big Cancer, How Melatonin Depleted Blood Grows Cancer. So when it's dark, when God turns the lights out, it's dark, right? What man has figured out how to do always is how to circumvent God's design, right? So when it's dark and we look at blue lights, right, such as a phone or a television or a computer screen, that shuts down the brain's production of melatonin. And melatonin is our nighttime hormone to prevent cancer. Please listen to this, everybody. And so what's happened in the last 20 some years is more and more and more Americans and humans have spent more time looking at blue lights than ever in the history of the world, including kids. And so here we have another component towards cancer, right? And this, I could show you study after study after study after study that your body is designed to make a crap load of melatonin when the lights go down, and that is one of our anti-cancer hormones. And so something as simple, but again, discipline, like for me, same way, like all of this is not easy, but when it turns dark, I put on my orange or red blue light blocking glasses, and then if I want to look at my phone or watch television or look at my computer, I am not shunting or suppressing my brain's production of melatonin.
Now, guaranteed. The next time,
I literally, as soon as I get off here, Amazon cart, Amazon cart, Amazon cart.
Yeah.
All of you children and myself. I'm not joking.
That's so good.
I'm not kidding you guys. I am not kidding you.
Yeah.
Right. And I would love to not tell people that stuff, like, because it's like, but you have to we have to understand design, right? What we've seen is we've seen a rampant rise in cancer rates, and specifically the younger the person is, the higher the rates of cancer. Like that's what we're seeing, and we have to understand the why. We have to understand root causes. And we were never designed to look at screens like this after dark. We were designed to chat. Like we were designed to hang out. Like, and these blue lights are a huge contributing factor towards this thing. And then lastly, of course, two other things is nutrition. And here's where I'll start everyone with nutrition. From a nutrition standpoint is just natural versus processed, right? Because this is a long discussion and slippery slope, right? Vegan, carnivore, vegetarian, keto, you name it. It's like, here's the beginning point. Less toxins, fewer ingredients. And the reality is what most people are eating and what we can eat if we're not careful is just a bunch of chemicals. Like we're going to end up eating a bunch of chemicals, and our body's not going to work right when we're loading it up with chemicals, right? It's like that's just critical. And then lastly is get outside. That's why I love, whatever it is, we've got to be outside. Our kids have got to be outside, right? It's like the more time we're outside, the less time we're probably looking at screens. The more time we're outside,
fishing trips.
The healthier our nerve system.
That's why we go on fishing trips. Yes, we go up north and we go on these fishing trips, right, Dr. Terry? So let's pause for a second. We got time. We got nowhere to be. Dr.
That
Terry,
is right.
Tell us what you do in June, because Caroline hates this part, but this is the part. This is my favorite part of the podcast. Like, tell us, like, what do you do to unwind? This is all great information, by the way. So, rest is key. So you can rest. Being outside, people give us hunters a hard time, but it has actually nothing to do with the hunt. It has everything to do with being outside, watching the sun come up, watching God's creation, seeing God's creation. So tell us a little bit about the fishing you do with your boys. I think it's incredible every year. Just give us a little insight on that and that trip you do once a year.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because this is across the board for men and women, as it is figuring out what do you love to do? What did you used to love to do in some cases, which is a little bit heartbreaking, where it's like, I used to love to, but I haven't done that in a long time. We are designed to be outside. Sun, there's a lot of confusion about the sun. Right?
Like so many people
getting a
think
sunburn
the sun is bad.
Go ahead.
And you need to set the record straight.
Yeah, so there's two things. A sunburn is always bad, right? Never get a sunburn. Like, figure that out. Wear clothing, wear non-toxic sunscreen. But the sun itself, and in particular at sunrise and sunset, brings this what's called infrared light that boosts our mitochondria and actually kills cancer. So all of us are designed to spend time outside. So for me, like, I love to fish. And my boys and I, we go up north every single summer, and we just fish from sun up to sundown, and and have a great time doing that. But whether it's fishing or hunting or going walking with your spouse or your girlfriends, we have to be outside, and we've spent more and more and more and more time inside, and then we've blamed cancer on the sun. And the reality is that we've been here forever. Since God put us here, he would not have designed the sun to kill us, right? Like, it's just crazy to understand that ultimately what causes the issues is inflammation and toxicity and deficiencies that actually causes the cancer, not the sun, with, again, a reminder, never get a sunburn. A sunburn is trauma to your skin. So take the necessary measures, but don't be afraid of the sun. That's
right now, okay, the kids we're on spring break this week. So I'm like, they've been outside. We've been to the playground for 2 hours today already this morning, and we're doing the podcast, and then we're going to go on a hike. Like, it is so essential, especially we're 2024. And with what you just said, the rising rates and what we're seeing cancer in the younger children or just younger age in general. Like, I want my kids outside and myself as much as possible. It keeps them away from the screens, from Nintendo, whatever it is.
Yes.
And they're exercising. I mean, you just check all those boxes at once.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's for all of us. So many people end up in jobs, right? They end up with jobs that are basically sunrise to sunset. And then, their health challenges are not going to be simply fixed by any one thing, right? And that's why, Dr. Heskett, like, I that idea behind hunting, like, I think for a lot of people, they're like, oh, he just likes to hunt. There's way more to it than that. You actually, guys and gals need this outside time for their well-being. And it's like, man, become a duck hunter, right? Whatever it is, like, get outside. And it's
so what
powerful.
We're really excited about too is having you come to our upcoming women's night out and just being able to share. But let's say we're going to go more into depth that night. But I want to ask you, what do you say to someone that's out there that's, God forbid, but they're in the middle of the fight of they have cancer and they're just like, I don't know what to do, because there's so many, so and so did natural. My dad had brain cancer. He eventually passed away at 69. So, cancer has directly affected my life, obviously. And so, what do you say to somebody out there? They have cancer and they're fighting. How do they get in touch with you, or because I've personally sent patients from my office to your office, and you've worked with them virtually. So there are people that are listening to this can say, "Hey, I want to talk to this guy," or I'm in this struggle, or my family members in this struggle. How do they find you?
Yeah, they can go to our website, and chiropractic.com, and Chiro is Chiro. They can go to our website and connect with all our stuff there. And the thing, every single day I work with a new client with cancer, like 5 days a week, every day, where we have the incredible honor and privilege of connecting with people with cancer every day. That being said, the biggest thing that I've found is you have to get some objective markers done. And that's what our office helps people with. It helps people get objective markers for where things at. And the best way for me to describe it is we help you discover the leaks in your boat, right? And out of those leaks, then we can help you shore up those leaks so that your body is better able to heal. And we work with people who do conventional care. We work with people who don't. We literally, it's nearly half and half, literally. So if somebody says, "Do you think I should do X, Y, and Z?" I say, "Listen, you're going to have to pray about that. Like, you're going to have to pray. My job is to help you understand where the leaks are. My job is to reiterate to you that you are designed to heal. My job is to share with you as many testimonials as I can in relation to, we have videos up on our website that just watching somebody share their story of going from stage 4 cancer towards being cancer free restores people's hopes, right? The Bible says hope deferred makes the heart grow cold, right? And it does. When we lose hope, it's tough. Like, we're in trouble. And what happens for most people is, um, I think sadly, they think that cancer is whimsical. Like, we'll see what happens. Like, we'll see. Hopefully, this reverses. There's so many things that we can look at and help people really discover that's off. Right now on social media, it's on my Facebook page. And I can share this with you because the guy shared it. The guy's name is Owen Hemsath, Hemsath. You can probably find him online. He's a guy who came to us with stage 4 cancer and was given months to live. And he just completed his a full year of being completely cancer free. And he did everything all natural, completely cancer free. And the reason I share that with you is because he's incredibly inspirational and motivational and unapologetically strong in his mission to help people understand you can turn this thing around. And so I can share his name on this because he shared the whole testimony on his own page and then tagged us on it. And to see somebody who was told they had, weeks to months to live to being completely cancer free, but he will tell you, and he says it like, you've got to go after this like a dog after a T-bone steak, right? Or whatever it is. Like, we have to understand that for many people, it is the fight of their life. It is. And then our job is to equip them for winning that fight. And I'm just here to tell everybody who listens to this and or watches this, don't believe for 1 minute that you can't turn this thing around. Don't believe for 1 minute that you can't turn it around, because you can. And that's not giving people false hope. It's giving people hope to get clarity, to get data, to get objective measurements.
That's awesome.
Yes, that is huge. That is huge. I mean, so if somebody is listening and they're on the fence, say they just found out they've got cancer and they're unsure about what path that they should go down, they're being told chemo, radiation, this is your only option. Yep. I mean, what would you say to somebody like that came into your office or that's listening? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say let's get clarity with testing. And that typically starts with, we have, for lack of a better term, just a list of labs that we have discovered help people really understand what's what's not working right, and really what is working right. One of the greatest things I love telling people early on is all the things about their body that's healthy, which can be like quite surprising. Like, they have a cancer diagnosis, and that is like, I can say, man, your liver is great, your kidneys are great, your thyroid is amazing, etc. But these things over here are off. And then we'll combine blood work with other functional tests depending on the situation. It could be a gut test, which is critical to nerve system, immune system. It could be a toxicity test, which is revelatory in relation to a lot of times what is driving people's cancer are a multitude of toxins in their body, right? Mold, heavy metals, pesticides, forever chemicals are keeping that body from healing and causing the cancer, right? These are called carcinogens for a reason. Like, that's why, So in nearly every case, there's carcinogens in high levels in their body, deficiencies such as vitamin D and potentially omega-3 fats and iodine, and then inflammation, and then gut disruption. And then we just go to work on addressing it. One of the things that I try and teach everyone is that all of us are like a beautiful castle in Europe, right? If you go to Europe and it's this beautiful castle, but in some cases the castles haven't been maintained well, right? It's still a castle, and the vision that it was in the beginning just needs restored, right? And so all of us are these beautiful castles that God has designed that sometimes just simply need maintenance, right? We're not junk, right? It's not that. It's that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, but oftentimes we just need help.
That's awesome.
Getting things back to the way they're supposed to be.
One thing that you are a proponent of, I know this to be a fact because I follow you. Well, when I had Facebook, I got off of that because of the blue light.
Really confused. Yeah, good job.
See what I did there. But anyway, you're a proponent of cold plunges. You started that before it was cool. Dr. Terry was doing these cold plunges, barefooted, runs in the snow, just stupid stuff, just absolute craziness. But I mean, it's not stupid, but you know what I'm saying, just crazy. Give me just a short, before we go, I just want a short benefits to that, because I know you practice it religiously, and just some of the stuff you've done up there in Kentucky and the ice and different things. Just share the benefits, and then I want to know the craziest thing that you've done, because I know there's been some crazy stuff for listeners, because I think that's good.
Yeah, so what we're looking at is, because here's the thing about it is that because we spend so much of our time in 70-degree controlled environments, like inside, right, is what we do. Cold stress, and heat stress, like sauna, all stress the body to then strengthen it. And in particular, it strengthens the nerve system and the mitochondria. So, I spend, 30 hours a week inside my office, under some blue lights, and it's 70 degrees. And so we have to stress ourselves. So cold immersion, cold exposure, the first thing I would tell people who are watching this is the more that cold sucks and scares you, and the more you're like, I can't do it, that's the more you need it. Like, seriously. The more terrible it is, you're like, there's no way in heck I can do this. It actually is the more that you need it, right? So that's number one. And you're right, Mike. I've been doing this for 15 years. Again, it's always just been based upon research. Like, how do we strengthen our nerve system, our mitochondria? Like, how do we do that? And then how could I ever tell somebody, or invite somebody is a better word. How could I ever invite somebody to do something that I don't do and can't do? And to be really clear with people, like, I haven't shared this much with hardly anybody. Like, I lost my brother to cancer. So I have a great opportunity to live. Like, I have life, right? I've been given a gift. And a part of that gift is, just stewarding based upon design. Because I don't want anybody to watch this and say, I have to do this, 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 and this, and this to be healthy. It's not about that. It's about what can I do? What am I invited into? And so these are things that I can do, right? I can use cold immersion to combat office work. I can use cold immersion to strengthen my mitochondria and my nerve system. And so I don't have to do that stuff.
Good.
I just get to do it. I don't have to exercise. I can choose to, right? I don't have to eat healthy. I don't have to. God loves me whether I eat healthy or not, right? It doesn't change that.
So
it's
good.
just, I want to, right? And so, I think probably for me, I think the craziest thing, maybe what would be considered the craziest thing is just, I did cold immersion in 32 degrees of water for 30 minutes.
What was Titanic?
Right?
The Titanic was,
I say that only in
43, I think. So you're saying, all right, let's.
Yeah.
40.
I probably could have lived for 45 minutes.
Did you have a
right?
door to float on?
Without a dime.
That's crazy.
I was in an actual ice bath for that one, and the fascinating thing is after the first 4 minutes, it was fine, like literally fine. So it's like, and I don't like sharing that stuff because like it could look like competitive or like whatever. I don't care about that. It was just one of those things where it felt amazing, and then I think I was listening to a podcast or something, and then I'm like, oh, I should probably get out, right? But it's not as intense as people think. Honestly, Caroline, like after the first couple of minutes, I always tell my female patients, look, if you can have babies,
now
don't
I've been
tell me
challenged,
about getting cold because you can do it.
No, Marjorie's
you
listening to this, and I don't think, I just, Kendall and I, we got in the pool. The pool's probably, I don't know what, it's probably 50 to 55 or something. Nothing stupid, but she got in there first. And I'm like, I look at Kendall and she's just this little petite. Yeah. She's a, freshman in college. I'm like, she's not going to be able to do it, but she's just sitting in there. And I'm like, I'm going. And Marge is like, what? I said, I'm going too. If she's going to do it, I'm doing it. So when I got out there, I was probably a minute and a half behind her, but I got down in there for probably 3 or 4 minutes. And dude, when we came out, like, first of all, when my time was done, she was like, I think I'm going to keep going. It's easy now. So it's kind of like what you said. But then when we got out, there was just a certain, and I've been doing some of the cold showers, but there was just a certain, I can't explain it, like a cellular vibration. Like there was just some type, your cells are just like alive. Yeah. And, when I do those cold showers in the morning, like it stinks, bro. It is horrible while you're doing it. But I think that's some of what we're saying today is just because it stinks or it's no fun or it hurts while you're doing it doesn't mean that it's not beneficial. Now, after the cold shower, for the first 40 minutes, I wanted to like wrestle somebody. Like I'm going into the office. I'm just like, let's go. Yeah. Because the hot shower just, you're coming out of there hitting oh man, but that cold shower, it brings just a punch to it. So that's why I wanted you to share that. That's fabulous. And, Caroline, you have another question or comment?
I do just want to say, I think when you're talking about the example that you're living, you're not just preaching things to your patients. You're not just telling them what to do. People don't understand how huge that is, because I equate that when patients go to another doctor, I'm sorry, I don't want to take advice from someone who has gone outside and smoked a cigarette, who is 20 pounds or 30 pounds overweight. But then you're telling me what to do to try to get healthy or mask whatever is going on in my life. And I think that is such a blessing to your patients and a testament to how much you love them and you want to treat them, that you are willing to put in the time and the effort and the work yourself, and you're not just sitting there telling them what to do. I mean, that is a game.
That's awesome. I totally agree. And also too, Dr. Terry, before we were wrapping up on the podcast, before we go, just the fact that what you said there is, every day is a gift. Like every opportunity, every day that we have is a blessing and a gift. And you choose to do whatever you can do to sow. The Bible talks about sowing and reaping. Whatever you sow, you will reap. And so that's what I want to say to the listeners out there is listen, if we can't, health is not something we just stumble upon. Health is not something you just wake up and you're like, it's not like I'm in Vegas and I'm playing the roulette wheel going, come on, let me land on health. Give me that. I always bet on red. Give me that health or whatever. This is not a crapshoot, not something where you're rolling the dice. This is an actual choice that we have. And so I admire you personally, and I know we've spent a lot of time on the phone together, coaching together, living life together, building together, growing together. And one of the things I love about Dr. Terry, he's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to be the kind of doctor that tells you what you need to know. And that whether it hurts or not, sometimes it hurts, and I have learned from this podcast. I have made notes while I'm on the podcast today. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Terry, that is a blessing. And I know that you are, I see people that lose a loved one to cancer or that instead of you taking that and going into this pit, I see people go into a pit. And as Beth Moore says, they not only are in the pit, but they bring as many other people down in that pit with them. You have done the complete opposite to live your life and say, you know what? I'm going to honor my brother. Yes. I'm going to honor my brother by living a life that is worthy of being lived. And so it has been an honor, brother, to do this podcast with you. We pray for your ministry. We pray God has put you in position over this profession that people that are truly sick, dying, get referred to you. And that's not an easy position. One of the things he didn't share, he deals with tons of children, children who have cancer, which, by the way, is unheard of. 30 years, it was, guys, one of the things that we need to understand on this podcast is it was unheard of for a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a newborn, a 3-year-old, a 7-year. No one, hardly anyone when I was in grade school had cancer. It was unheard of. Yes. And yet today we have buildings, hospitals built for children that have cancer. So we have to understand this is a serious, one of the leading causes of death in the United States. This is a serious issue. And some of the things that Dr. Terry has explained today can help us be on the right path. Because whether you can't take all the steps in one day and run a marathon, you have to take the first step. But as long as you're heading towards that 26-mile mark, as long as you're taking steps towards it, then you're working towards health. You're working towards your future. So I want to encourage everybody out there that's listening to this podcast. Today's the day. If this doesn't wake you up, then nothing will. Today is the day that you begin your journey to health. Dr. Terry, a closing word?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, such a privilege to be on here with you all. A couple of things. I gave a talk recently, a few weeks back, at a women's health event of all things, right? And the topic was cancer. They wanted me to speak on cancer. And when I got done, a lady came up to me and just thanked me so much. And she told me about losing her daughter to cancer, right? She just, her teenage daughter, she had lost her teenage daughter to cancer, and yet she kind of picked herself up by the bootstraps and, is still on the journey of learning and discovery and health. And it was an amazing conversation that was incredible. And then when I left, I went outside and another lady stopped me and she said, "Thank you so much, Dr. Harmon. My 6-month-old grandchild has cancer, 6-month-old grandchild." And she said, "We are doing all we can. Thank you so much." And I'm just like, I don't even like trying not to cry in both these situations. And yet last week, I was so blessed to be on the line with one of our clients who was diagnosed with osteosarcoma at 13 years of age. Wow. And now 3 years later,
praise the Lord.
He's cancer-free, continues to be completely cancer-free. Watching this teenager grow up, and this is what we're being invited into right now, right? We didn't expect to be, as adults here with potentially people listening to this have kids or grandkids or whatever. We never anticipated that this was going to be like what we might be involved in, but the reality is all of us are involved in this. It's just a matter of, are we unaware and sitting on the bench, or are we like, all right, that's it, put me in, like I'm in, I'm going to learn and live, and and then that will then migrate down into our kids, right? And Michael, just as you said, just real quick, about the cold. So kids, the reason kids typically do great with cold, right? That's the whole thing behind, you're going to freeze to death, right? Your lips are blue. Like, aren't you cold? Get out of the water. And the kids are like, nah, I'm fine, bro. Like, I'm good. Because that's called brown fat. Kids are born with a lot of brown fat, right? And as we get older, brown fat, which is insulating and very thin, can turn into white fat, which is fluffy and inflammatory, right? So the idea is again, we want to use cold to turn white fat into brown fat, and brown fat is insulating. And then once you have brown fat, you can handle it. So it's just insulating. What you mentioned about, was it Kendall, right? It's just like, Kendall's younger. She has brown fat. She can actually handle the cold better than sometimes adults can. It's fascinating to really
so good.
understand
Well,
the
Dr. Terry, thank you so much for being on here. And this is one of those times where, Caroline, we talked about these Coffee with the Chiros being, 20, 30 minutes, but such great material. Yes. And so we are so, and I really honestly feel like this won't be the last podcast we do with Dr. Terry. God just showed me that. There's just so much more that we can cover with you. You can tell that you're just so educated and versed on just the body, how to maintain your health. And so we are honored to have you on. And I know our patients are going to be blessed by this, as well as you coming in April. Caroline, real quick, the April event. And then also, if somebody's out there, Caroline, and they're saying, I want to get my spine checked at Heskett Chiropractic or anywhere, give them an opportunity. Tell them how they can do that as well.
Absolutely. So it's going to be coming up. I mean, as soon as this podcast is released, it will be very close to the time that Dr. Terry is going to be joining us. April 25th is our Women's Night Out. It is at Morristown Landing from 6 to 8:30. It is just going to be an incredible event. I mean, you heard just a little bit of what Dr. Terry is going to be talking about in person there. So we just encourage you guys, bring your friends, your moms, anybody. I mean, like Dr. Terry said, we all know somebody, if not ourselves, who has been affected by cancer. And so this talk is truly for everyone. And, the other thing is, for those who are listening, who've maybe never been to the chiropractor, all you have to do is call any of Heskett Family Chiropractic's 4 locations. Tell them that you heard this, you were listening to the podcast. You can come in, everything, your entire first visit for $47, which is a huge gift, truly. And the last thing I would say, if you want to follow Dr. Terry, you can find him on Instagram, Facebook. He is one of the first people I look at every day when I hop on there. I'm like, what insight facts study has Dr. Terry thrown up on his stories today? So it's at Dr. Terry Harmon on Instagram. You can follow him, and we'll be sure to link his office and all of his socials in the show notes as well.
Yes, and also want to thank Dr. Terry for being a huge, integral part of the chiropractic revolution, which is a God family chiropractic movement that he shares at. He doesn't know this yet, but he's sharing in Nashville. So now he does, if he can be there November 1st and 2nd. Thank you, Dr. Terry. He always comes and shares there. So his insight is so powerful. And what I love about him most is he's grounded in the Lord and his family and then his practice. So thank you, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Coffee with the Chiro. God bless you.
Bye, guys.